there we go. Let's see how this goes here. This going? Oh, there it goes. Oh, that was fast. All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. Well, not quite yet. It's still 11:30 here in the where I am. But anyway, part two of this is going to be my Christmas special, 2004 trip to the Seashore Trolley Museum in Maine. And if we last time was a little bit of a preamble, but here I'm basically day 2 out of 3 gonna be hitting a lot of this stuff at the museum. We'll see how far we get. Hopefully, it won't drag on too long. But I wanted to do a quick. I forgot to sort of mention if I can find it, where this place is. It's quite a bit north of Boston. As I said, Maine is bigger than you think, and where Maine isn't too far from the city, it is a bit of a drive. And unfortunately, Seashore, unlike the, let's say, Baltimore Streetcar Museum, it is not in any way transit accessible. So that can lead to a bit of some issues. I think you can sort of get nearby on a downeaster, and well, today everything's Uberable. Great, but anywho, I was even restarted the browser and everything. So anywho, let's just get going here. Yep, there it goes. Yeah, so there's Boston. There's the Maine area. Switch to a quick Google Maps. It's sort of south of Portland. It's, if you know Kennybunk port, that's a port for the actual town of Kennybunk, and I usually use this Wikimapia actual map because that shows you the railroad stand out. It's sort of north of there. And as you can see here, it has sort of a main facility, and then a fairly substantial main line, probably on par with that of Illinois Railroad Museum. There's the outline of it. As most things in Maine, it's I guess there's not a lot of zoning there. So just like a lot of people, Maine is the place where you find junkyards in the woods, and Seashore definitely matches that description. They got a lot of stuff on storage, sitting outside. It's a neat place to visit. They also have a very sizable bus and trolley bus collection. They support trolley buses and buses. The main facilities are very nice, but like I said, it's pretty expansive. That's why a lot of the stuff ends up there, both Boston and New York City, and can give a lot of vehicles the ability to stretch their legs. So, like I said yesterday, when we were touring the 01400 series Pullman Redline car, the controller, I said, it's a lot of people. It is made by the Siniston Corporation. A lot of people will generically refer to controllers as Sinistons. There's your little logo right there of what it is, and it's your typical. Not only does it have the contactors inside, it's got that positive pressure dead man feature in it too. I'm not sure exactly what they patented or if they were the first to do that, but they're certainly very well known for it. Anywho, one second. But let's just sort of get into this. Sorry, it's going to take me a few minutes to get into the swing of things. Okie doke. Oh, come on. Oh, we got a lot of people here already. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Anywho, let's see what's going on. Like I said, also here is another picture of the storm door of the Pullman Standard 01100 series car. I was actually looking up some redline facts before I came over. I think these were out of service sometime in the early 80s when the 01200 Hawker Siddeley cars came in. So these didn't seem to have a long, I guess they probably came into service in the 50s or something. But, it's hard. Sometimes I always have this odd cognitive bias that stuff that enters into service. You think transit vehicles last 30 years, and today we're starting to see things from the 70s and 80s begin to age out. But when I always hear stuff is in the 50s and it went out in the 1980s, I'm like, man, that didn't last long. And then you realize that that's 30 years between the 1950s and the 1980s. It seems like 1980s, 1970s, and then like before. So same with the RDCs. I always was wondering, like, why did the RDCs seem to lose, go out of service so quick? And they weren't even in the late 50s. Those came in the 53. So by 83, that's 30 years. That's your minimum what you'd want to get out of a transit vehicle. And by the 90s, I guess they probably, in theory, could have lasted till then. But again, this looks like a Connecticut car. I think the Connecticut cars were yellow like that. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of history of the actual trolleys at Seashore Trolley Museum. Or many of the trolleys. I know some of them, but I'm not like a Connecticut trolley aficionado. In fact, there's like a trolley museum in Bristol, Connecticut, and I went to school near there. I've never been there. It doesn't even. It's odd. It's. I know it. I know it exists, but on all my forums and stuff, that Bristol, Connecticut Trolley Museum doesn't seem to get a lot of press. Here we have a 5000 series Boston streetcar. Now, I'm aware of these simply because they're still using the same sort of, I forget what the PCCs were, but then you have the 7000s and the 8000s. But these are the 5000s. You see one in that Green Line tunnel where it makes the turn after going under near the Boston Common at Bowdoin, I think. They have one of these down there as part of the official historic collection. But here is the one. Here's the one they have at the Seashore Trolley Museum, and I'm assuming it's still operable. Note the pile of motors right there. I'll undo and zoom in. Look at all those wonderful traction motors. So I also don't know the history behind a lot of this. The museum. I can go look it up. Anyone can go look it up when it was formed. Damn it. So, but they seem to have scooped up a lot of the stuff in the Northeast, and not to mention the MBTA's been pretty nice with them about preservation. So this is definitely something. Let's see if I can figure out what it is. That big old red thing. So we gotta peruse around here. Looks like that's definitely an interurban car. For those of you who don't know, interurbans and street cars, the difference between... Oh, this is something I probably deleted. Because I'm an idiot. Yeah, it was a little soft back in the day, and it looks like I just junked it. So I need to go back in time a second here to pull the number off that other car. Yeah, I can pull the number there. It looks like 434. So yeah, interurban cars are pretty much they literally connected small cities. Maybe it's an Indiana car, I don't know. But they had things like cow catchers, heavier, beefier trucks and ride. It's interesting, that's another one of those things that when you read about it, not just that you had these interurban lines, between cities up through the 1920s and 30s. They were pretty quick, but that they also, that you just had so much of this 600-volt electrification, and how were they, it's just sort of like, they didn't involve, today whenever you see this, whenever you do build light rail or whatever, that the amount of infrastructure that is involved with that, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars worth of infrastructure. Whereas back in the day, they could just drop down, build build rail out of nowhere, throw up some trolley wire. Who knows how frequent the substations were? They probably weren't that frequent. they get this stuff going between, on fairly substantial distances, 50, 100 miles. And it all just sort of vanished. And it's a shame that we can't build stuff to that standard today. You can't just get up some degree of rail transit. Now, one of the issues that you probably had back is they probably rode like crap and were slow. We all think of this idea of stuff zipping around at like 80 miles an hour, but they're probably going maybe 40. So, there's a reason that it sort of went away. I think this is pretty sure that these are a pair of New York City Subway Commonwealth standard trucks. They used these from the R10s, which went into service in 1948, up through the R68s. There was a brief period of time when the R46s tried to use a newer type of truck, but due to the cracks and the debacle with those, they went back to using the tried and true 1948 model of truck up through the early 90s until the R142s came around 2000. Just shows, it's like once burned, twice shy. Again, these, I don't know why the New York City Subway liked them, but they're absolutely, there's nothing really, they're pretty crappy trucks. But I guess they get the job done. But like Walmart, there's a something you get from standardization. You save more by, or there's more benefit to having standard trucks across your 2,000 car or more fleet than having every car having its having our Pioneer 3s on the buds and the other stuff. If people don't know what they're looking at, your motor's there that connects through this axle box, which probably allows some amount of which probably has some sort of thrust bearing to keep movement of the axle from damaging the motor. And I'm pretty sure that the motor is part of the is quote unquote sprung weight. It probably moves up and down with the axle. Back in the this post nose suspension of traction motors is the replacement for things like quill drives. By the way, note the brake rigging. Look at that. Look at that there. Oh my God, this thing might as well be a freight car. Wow. I've never known how old this design is. Package brakes were standard on transit vehicles starting in the 60s everywhere else. But in the NYCTA, you're going to have cylinders and rigging. Wow, look at that. God. Oh my God. I need to get some of these. I've been doing a lot of classic photos on my blog. That's where I actually will go through and put pick out the best photos and put this down to something you can actually look at. You guys are just seeing these low res stream of me editing things here. These do come out. All this stuff gets put up on my web hosting, so you can go and it's off the. I think I've updated the link on my YouTube channel. You can go look at these photos I'll have these upload once I finish the set tomorrow. I'll have it all uploaded. So if anyone actually cares about stuff here, it'll all be up and available for you. So this is clearly a French, one of their French cars. It was in service. I don't know anything about it. All I know is it's number 957. It's so crazy. You go to these trolley places, and they always, they just say, "Oh, I'm going out." And everybody who volunteers at these places knows the number and history of every damn car that's there, and they just drop a number. Everything is known by its number. Finally, I'm gonna get to reuse some of the. File names. So, yep, it's a nice car. It's a trolley museum. That's what their trolley museum, streetcar museum. Oh my God, Notre Dame. How did I know it was French? That's how I know it was French. Also, it totally does not look American. Look standard there. If I was a volunteer there, I could tell you how exactly they got it and where it was found and how it was used as a diner and whatnot. The guys, the tour groups at the Baltimore Streetcar Museum, where I'm a little more familiar, they'd always say that the only ways trolleys would survive is that if someone basically hid them somewhere, or if they were doing something else and avoided being scrapped. Have some switch maintenance here. Just fixing up a switch stand, I guess. No, I took this in a picture. I took this in a way that I can't really change it. Nope, that's not better. Let's see what the original name was. Sorry for the dead air. There it is. Man, you can just see the original. God. Change that name. Yeah, that's the major issue of getting up to the Seashore Trolley Museum. Seashore? Yeah, Seashore. That it's hard enough to get out to. It's hard enough to get out to somewhere like Connecticut, but getting up to you got to go to Boston, and then you got to get a ride up to here. So unless you've driven to Boston, which is a 5-hour ordeal from New Jersey on the best of days, and add another 2 hours to that coming from Maryland, it's just something that would take quite a bit of planning. I'm thinking of going up to Acadia National Park this year, so maybe I'll see if I can throw in a trip, a return trip to the old Seashore Trolley Museum. Now, what did I call this semaphore dwarf thing going on here? I don't think they only have any other semaphores, but again, I don't know how they hooked this into things. It might have been a switch position indicator. It might have had some sort of little track circuity thing with it. It wasn't really. I mean, I think their main line had block signaling. That paddle board I showed the other day was mainly because they can only store 5 trains on the loop. So trains would follow based on signal indication. When everything got off the loop, I believe the signal would clear, and then the trains at the other end could return. But they couldn't, if they put more than 5 trains down it, they'd have to reverse because there's no way to get them back. That was the biggest problem they had with on the main line. We only have room for 5 or 6 trains on the loop. Yeah, it was pretty. I think at the time these were still in service at the CNW station in Chicago. Surprising, these little dwarf semaphore things. So the fun thing is, there are not a lot of these dwarf semaphores left, but CSX used to use a lot of these at level at level crossings for sidewalk crossing gates. So if you knew where to look, I think I have a blog post on my Position Light blog about the reuse of railroad signals for grade crossings. There was some CSX had been, I think, started aggressively phasing them out, unfortunately. I do not know what model this is. I could look it up, I'm sure. One of the later models. I don't really feel like reducing the quality on this. I'll see if I can just cut out those rocks there. That got it. All right, set 1 is done. Oops. Let's see what we got going here on the stream. Oh, we got people here. Railroads aren't real. I mean, there is really no evidence as to the death of dwarf signals. NS definitely likes putting up masts, but they aren't not. I know multiple locations where there are new dwarfs. CSX has no problems with dwarfs. They're still installing unilenses, I think, or at least I've seen them recently. Oh, someone actually knows what the hell's going up with whatever. Yeah. Can you explain how that paddleboard, the guy on the chat, can you explain how that paddleboard works with the stop sign and the do not enter? I know it's logical, but I just can't quite remember. 1 second here. Let me find that paddleboard thing. Not that. Where is this damn thing? Oh, yeah. The manual block system that they have. Again, I know that they need to count how many trains to turn on the loop, and I know they use it in conjunction with the signal. But there's something about like covering over the do not enter with the yellow jobber. I just forget how. If you want to explain on the chat how that works, I'll refer to other folks. I also need to rename that. Oopsies. All right. Looks like they had multiple ones of these guys. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Let's see. So again, I was just going crazy with this little dwarf semaphore here. Oopsies. If I had, I don't want to keep people, like, I've sort of learned my lesson on going off onto Flights of Fancy and during the streams. If I had easy access, I'd pull up a photo of those CSX grade crossing the use of the dwarfs there. I know where they are, but unfortunately, okay, you got me. I will. Oh, I know what I need to look at right here. Let's just see if I can do it quick. I should be able to pull it up pretty fast. It was on one of my Derby trips. There it is. Yeah, you can see here. CSX converted the used semaphore motors on their grade crossings. Unfortunately, this is no longer there, but there's a whole bunch of these in Cumberland, Maryland, too. Grade crossings are one of those things that can get ignored. So there's probably some of these somewhere. But this was in 2011. And if you got that eye, even though it's not an actual in-service signal, it's still a very it's an interesting piece of history, hiding in plain sight there. All right, back to the show. See, look, same motor and everything. So while all the people are like, "Oh, the semaphores are all gone except for Raton Pass line," there's still a few if you know where to look. Wait, what? Oh, there you go. So keep your eyes peeled. Grade crossings aren't completely ignorable. So it looks like they do have more than one. Again, I wish I knew. Seashore Trolley Museum Shoreline does have a plan to have a signaling system and a CTC board. And I'm sure that there's some guy who's doing it on his own. I don't know what these. I don't think were part of any big scheme. Yep, here we have number 957 again. Let me see what I called that the last time. There it is. Whatever. Also, I'm going to note the amount of cropping. If you saw that original photo, much more cropping. I think that the web space that I had to work with back in now at this point in time, I had moved on, but I was still getting a lot of complaints from people on 56K back in 2004 about file size when I would post a lot of files. So I was getting a lot of pressure to keep stuff manageable. Funny how that never really materialized with the whole mobile data revolution. Notice the SOAC car in the background there, the old state-of-the-art car with the kids and their balloons. But I'm going to have to crop that a little bit. These dwarf semaphores were often employed by, like, the New Haven as subsidiary signals. Subsidiary signals, for those who don't know, are where you have like your main signal, and then you have this little bitty thing on the on lower down on the mast or even on the ground. While this evolved into things like lower head restrictings, or like that Reading style Logins, restricting only signals. We have that bottom head that only has like red or yellow. New Haven would even see stuff where you'd have on a signal bridge, your first head and your second head for clear or diverging clear, then all the way mounted as a dwarf on the track bed would be the restricting signal. So you'd have, if you needed that restricting, you wouldn't look up to the gantry to give you a red over yellow or a red over yellow. You'd have this little dwarf mounted completely separately from it. Sure, I'm doing the right thing here. Yeah, we're good. So, I don't know where they got these, if those are New Haven ones from the ground or whatever. Anyway, here's the famous Shoreline double slip switch. There it is. With the C tower in the background. C tower being an orange line elevated tower. This is there are some instances of manually operated double slip switches. Illinois Central, or former Metro Electric line, South Randolph has some down in there. This is neat because it's a double slip, but it's a trolley switch. So for those of you who don't know about trolley switches, you have what they call the live mate, where it's only one of the points actually moves. I think they call the other ones like a live mate and a dead mate or something like that. So this is the one that will catch the flange, and the other point, which would be there. This is what's grabbing the flange and pulling the car to diverge, and this frog point here is offset, and then the axle is just pulled around. So there's the other one that's live. There's one that's live. And that's live. There's 1 live, 2 live, 3 live, 4 live, and the other ones are all dead. So these outer ones are the live ones that'll move the train. Now you can trail through them, of course. And the other ones, these are all set by switch irons. Here we have another close-up view of the shoreline double slip. Now, I did not see it being quote-unquote operated, just like basically trolley. I think with their not regular setup, it wasn't necessarily, you didn't have to have a guy stop and get out and throw stuff around, or even have a switch tender. Let's see where it is in real. I mean, this is right up near where the main entrance is. So let's just see what they're doing with it once I finish this. So there's your C tower, which I'll talk about later. Oh, there it is. So I believe that... Let's see. There's your main line. Somewhere, I'm trying to figure out where that stop board is. I'm not entirely sure where these start going, but I think trains, when they return, they come in there, they trail through that. That's set again. That's a spring switch, and I think that the double slip is just set to diverge and back onto the loop. But things can sort of come right out of the barn there and cross over. I'm not entirely sure what their operations are, but that's where it is. It's right there next to the main place. Yeah, I definitely need to pay this a visit when I'm in Maine this year. But it might not be in the cards if I'm flying into like Bangor or someplace. Let me see what I called this back in the day. Here it is. Oops. Wait, what? That's not it. Did I like delete one? Probably. Ugh. So this is an Orange Line tower. I forget exactly where it was. It was either the Forest Hills or Everett. Probably Forest Grove, Forest Hills. I can go look that. I mean, again, it's something you can go look up. Fortunately, it was preserved. It's not made of solid copper, but a lot of the stuff on the Orange Line and Boston in general was covered. It was covered in copper sheeting, which was pretty ritzy for back in the day. It was preserved, I guess, probably in 2 pieces or multiples and then reassembled here. I did not get up there. I do not know if any of the original interlocking was survived, but somehow I doubt it. A lot of times preservationists don't realize that the most important part isn't the outside, it's the technology within. It's people who aren't preservationists tend to look at things from the outside and not be a historical person. I assume that this is an MBTA 4000 series streetcar. Looks like a Peter Witt. Everything's a Peter Witt. Nice angle shot. Yeah, I should have found someone to get me up there. Oopsies. These probably some kind of Connecticut. I have no idea what the heck car this is. I know my camera was not liking the bright light that day. Oh wait. Uh-oh. Shoot. Damn it. Saved some of those in a lower resolution than I really wanted to. That was dumb. Oh well. And here we have the whatever car this is. Oh, the 4387 in front of the actual museum itself, or the the public face of the museum. Now let's see what's going on in the old chat here. Okay. Isn't there something about that paddle thing where, like, if there's something blocking the do not enter, then trains can proceed, but if it's taken, then they can't enter? I guess that if you take the orange paddle, that displays the do not enter. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Oh, it's North Station Tower C? Alright, there we go. Eastern Mass Street Railway. Alright, fine, fair enough. I will go change that around. It looked like an MBTA thing. I gotta fix that. Maybe I'll just resave those C Tower issues. Uh, 73 and 71. I'll just redo these. They were pretty easy. Sorry for the backtrack. Let me just do this real quick. Let me just do this up real fast. Yeah, it's a damn shame that the whole, like, L got torn down, especially on the south. But that's one of those other things that it's easy to forget, that there's this big difference between subways and L's. L's are cheap, very cheaply built. We're very lucky today that Chicago L is even still standing. What most people see in New York City aren't even L's; they are elevated subways. That they had to go through an extensive renovation process to be able to last to the current day. and things that were, places that had L's. Philly is another one where they're lucky that they had to completely reconstruct that many years, and those are barely holding on. L's were cheaply constructed, wooden cars, very small, and the orange line was built a bit better than the rest, but that's why they all, except for I said New York and Chicago, they got, and even in Chicago, they're being rebuilt. And when the rebuilding in Chicago today means you knock it down and you build something with center pier concrete columns and pre-stressed blah 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 guide trackways. It's not, oh, we'll just give it a new coat of paint. Okay, so here we have a South Shore interurban car. South Shore is arguably one of the last interurbans still in operation. I mean, it is an FRA railroad. The SEPTA's Route 100, a.k.a. Norristown High Speed Line, a.k.a. Philadelphia and Western, is sort of the other interurban that is still operating. Chicago, South Shore, South Bend. 32. Oh, yeah, I would say Nick D, but it wasn't that at the time. I'm not sure how they ended up with this with a South Shore interurban car, but they did. These are the ones with these were involved, I believe, in a collision with a Highliner, where these are the concrete floor ones. They just sort of ripped open the. Oh no, that was in Illinois Central. Never mind, that's the wrong story. But compared with something modern, these will typically just punch right through them. Yeah, so the South Shore is they were using their heavyweight rolling stock up through about 1980-83. Though surprisingly, a lot of their, unlike New Jersey Transit and SEPTA, where it was clear that this is the end of, so the heavyweight cars, these old-timey looking ones, up through the 60s and 70s, they were getting scrapped and replaced, and no one really cared. And then tourist trains became a thing, and SEPTA's Reading cars and NJT's Morris and Essex basically got swallowed up by every tourist train operator that realized that, that was the last chance to get something old-timey looking. I'm surprised that the South Shore cars were not generally given the same treatment, given how long they were operating. There's a Long Island Railroad MP54, but I don't know the number. Google will probably have to be my thing. Uh... 4137. Again, I'm assuming these are probably in roughly the same condition they were, especially based on that Google overhead. Yeah, the ubiquitous PR MP54 cars. That was one of the I revamped the Wikipedia article on those I have a I have a number of sources on that. This was many years ago. It's just crazy how many of those things they made. And arguably, it kind of parallels the amount of the fleet numbers that today's commuter railroads have. But they're about, like, LIR had at least 700 of them. On the AC side, it was about 400. South Jersey had about 12, and then that's all that you had. But it compared with, like, the number of M1s. It compared with the number of Silverliner 4s. So, I mean, yes, these were lower capacity, but it was still interesting that there was roughly the fleet sizes were very, very similar. Now, they used for both AC and DC. Here we have inside. Note the quote unquote your primitive HVAC. That's the other thing you get with these. It's like they always museums that just sort of collect crap tend to start using their cars as storage units. New Jersey Transportation Heritage Museum has a little bit of the same problem. But at least New Jersey Transportation Heritage Museum has an excuse, because they technically represent all forms of transportation, so people are always dropping. They're collecting stuff like historic signage. They also collected almost everything that got ripped out of the Newark City subway. So they could, in anticipation of constructing a trolley museum. I don't know what kind of truck this is. It's a friction bearing. I mean, it's old as heck, but probably probably a Boston L truck, but because it's got the no idea. I know the other ones, but I don't know that one. Maybe the chat knows what that one is. So if anyone knows what that is, but it's just an old truck. One second here. Gotta give it my best guess. Could be old Red Line, maybe. Looks like something that's set up for for drop collection as opposed to sliding. So let's call it a random L truck. Note your SOAC car in the background. I believe that this is an example of the general, or the Rockwell trucks that got the frame cracks. In fact, if I unresize this and zoom in, modern subway. Oh, these are the state-of-the-art car trucks. So yeah, I don't know if these are the Rockwells. I'm pretty sure the state-of-the-art cars were R44s, or they R46s. Huh. Let's check that out. So I thought they were St. Louis cars. St. Louis, 1972. Yeah, that means that they wouldn't have been the Rockwell trucks. They might have been Rockwell trucks. Nothing's telling me what the trucks are. I think that is a Rockwell truck. Because I don't... it's clearly GRS. Maybe this... Maybe it's a Maybe it's a, GRS. Oh yeah, it's not a Rockwell. It's a general. It's probably a GSI 70 with just inboard bearing trucks and an air suspension. Yeah, that's a GSI 70. The air suspension was throwing me off. Everything is a GSI 70 these days. They're everywhere. Silverliner 5s are GSI 70s. Broad Street B4 cars are GSI 70s. Comets, GSI 70s. Viewliner 2s, GSI 70s. Viewliner 1s, GSI 70s. Superliner 2s, GSI 70s. Silverliner 4s, GSI 70s. Silverliner 3s. They are everywhere. And they're not going away. Like I said, if you need, they're a go-to. They are definitely a go-to. And here we have a PCC truck. Note that tubular sort of lightweight construction there. They don't have the resilient wheels. Probably came off some sort of MBTA. The MBTA pulled all the resilient wheels off their PCCs at some point. I think these are all fabricated. I know there's a couple different designs of PCC truck. Some that might have had more bolts or more welds. I'm not in a PCC. Again, I'm not a PCC aficionado. Like I said, the Seashore Trolley Museum is equipped, does have a collection of trolley buses, and does have a trolley bus route. I do not know, like, how long it is, but it's there, or if they added to it. Boston does, for those who don't know, it does have a number of trolley bus lines. Here we have a Boston 5000 series converted to a work car, which I believe is probably now the Seashore Trolley Museum's work car. This would be equivalent to the Septa Orange PCCs that at least one of those is now down at the Baltimore streetcar as its work car. Work cars, SEPTA does have a number of work cars, but again, they are also going the way of use a bucket truck because, you know, having to deal with the energized stuff. Last set of the day. Yeah, it looks like an L truck because I think L's tend to have that narrower width than the overrunning third rail just to add have lighter weight. That's what you see currently in Chicago. That's what New York City L cars had as well. Philly was a little bit different. Oh, we are almost done here. And incidentally, I don't know what sort of R19 this is. Crap. It's an R7? I gotta look that up. Yeah, that's the one. It is... Nope. Oh, it's an R4. Ah, there we go. Yeah, this was running. You can tell that it's gotten some nice restoration. New York City subway was sort of laudable when it first did it was doing its thing. I was just up there for the nostalgia train on Sunday. And it was interesting because, they started with car 100 and they did that R1 or like everything up through car 1800 were basically they just numbered everything in order And then they started getting super fancy when they started doing 1800s, and then they started getting fancy with the let's see what number that was. So now this one's saying it's an R7. Now, I don't know what is what. Maybe one of them's an R7 and one of them's an R4. I don't know which one that is because I don't see a number on it. They are giving it a nice fresh coat of paint there. Oh boy, great. Yep, dang. I guess they took the numbers off for theft purposes or theft deterrence. Yeah, let's go to their official website to see what's up. Come on. How this should be the collection should be like the Oh, they actually got some of the old Blue Line stuff. Blue Line was. Oh my God! Like you can't. Oh my God! This is called one of our volunteers knows HTML. Maybe the thing knows. Great. Their data, their search of what is here is non-functional. All right. Okie doke. I know it's either an R4 or an R7. Okay, so it's either 800 and it's coupled to 1440. So the question is, which is which? It looks like, yeah, that's the R4 because the paint's newer on the doors, and they got that clear story paint. So I'm gonna think this is the R4. Yeah. All right, great. Finally done. Number 800. Sorry for the delay there. Just want to get stuff right so I don't have to do it again. Probably don't even have the right. It's probably the. It's probably the. It's probably 1440, but whatever. So here's the I wish I knew the number of it. Hold on. So this is the Liberty Bell Limited. This is again this is the interurban that was existed between Philadelphia and Allentown. This is a special, again. This was put in towards in the 30s when private autos were increasingly competing with interurban lines, and this was built as a luxury extra fare riding experience between Allentown and Pennsylvania. Pretty popular, but again, fortunately, it got preserved. Very plush. I'm not sure how much it actually cost. I'm sure that I could find it on. Again, we can hit up the old Wikipedia. Might not be the Liberty Bell Limited. We'll just call the Liberty Bell line. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'd have to really dig into that, so I'm not going to bother right now. Here we have the operator position and the little cash register. These little cash one second. Fare theft was pretty common in the heyday of the trolleys. Cash fares were notoriously difficult to track. The use of the fare boxes, fare boxes had all sorts of ways to make sure that fares are rung up or not or accurately counted. But I know at one point I heard a story that after a longtime employee had retired and he passed away, his wife found that he had his own fare box that he would swap in, a little cash register like that he would swap in. So for one of the runs, he would just basically collect all the fares, and if they had any sort of secret shoppers come out, they would be none the wiser because he would be on there ringing up the fares, and it looked perfectly kosher. They said the Jersey Shore was built one nickel at a time. Almost done for the day. Here we have one of the Blackpool double-decker cars. I guess if you're a streetcar museum, you got to get one of those. There's still a bunch of those running on that tram line in England. Here we have the upper level. So give street give the museum some credit for not being like, we're Boston and only Boston. They've clearly made acquisitions to enhance the appeal to random folks who aren't the transit the transit fan set. I guess I'm pretty sure that all of these undercover were operable, but I don't know what the deal was. Not sure if this is their international barn or what. course, one of the most popular ones are this. It's one of these open air, as their open air sort of pleasure observation car. I forget the story behind this. I don't know if it's from Blackpool. I just can't. I don't know where this is from. I probably can look it up. Maybe it's on the Wikipedia page, probably. Yeah, you're not here to hear me read stuff. Anyway, this is here. I forget where it's from. Oh, Montreal. That's right. I knew it was foreign, but it looked, not that foreign because it's fairly large. This is apparently is their most popular one for charters. So you get a birthday in your SOAC, and then you ride this out and around the line. I forget why this was made. Probably for like Mardi. That's why I was thinking Mardi Gras. They would have that in Montreal, although not as good as the New Orleans version. Oh, yeah, there he goes. Yep. 10 miles around to 2 mountains, blah, 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 blah. It's in French and English, so there you go. Man, that is a pretty fun commitment to bilingualism there. No, some of those are probably could have been combined, but the French language police would get angry. Oh, I think that's it. Well, thank you, folks in the chat, for your assistance. So this is the end of part. Well, this is the end of part 2, but this is the end. Back in the day when my memory cards only held 90 photos, this is the end of the card 1, and I got a whole other card 2 with about another 39. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. Like I said, this is going to be a 3-parter. This should just be more Seashore stuff. Looks like it. And this is one of the reasons this had actually just gotten trucked in, the Almond Joys from Philly. They're going to have to re-gauge it, of course. But anyway, that's what's coming up tomorrow. My voice is giving out here. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Which file name? Anyone there? Oh, sorry it took another... sorry it took the same amount of time as yesterday. Oh. Spiral? Oh, yeah, you're right. Derp. Got it. Thank you. Anyway, thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow. Merry Christmas. It's officially Christmas where I am. And you all have a wonderful day. And hope you have a great morning. And I'm going to be checking out. And like I said, I'll be on same time tomorrow around 11 o'clock. Maybe a little earlier because I've got my SEPTA trip. If you're in the Philly area, I'm running a SEPTA trip on Thursday, day after Christmas. 9 a.m., meet at Market East Station, East End, 9 a.m. Have your ticket by that time. We're departing promptly at 9:10 on R2 Warminster. All right? Laters.